Okay, everybody, this is Rabbi Noah Tile, and we are continuing our series on awakening the Jewish spirit, following the signs. Last meeting, we discussed in detail what a sign really is, its significance in the Torah, what it really stands for. Both, we looked at the first instant that we see what it called an oat or a sign in the Torah from the story of Cain and Abel, all the way to Moses and the signs that God gave Moshe and the Jewish people that he was with them. And we know that a sign is very significant in the sense that it helps us increase our courage. And we looked at stories from Cain and Abel to Moshe and the signs that God gave Moshe at the burning bush on Mount Sinai, as well as later. That signs really are an opportunity for God to say, first and foremost, you can stand out, you can have strength and courage, lose that fear, create that sense of bond to me, and ultimately know that things are going to be okay. It's really a response that increases and strengthens our identity and makes us who we are. And then at the same time, it's also a way for God to say, I'm with you and I've always been with you. And so now what we want to do, and you can go back a little bit and learn about some of the details of that. Now what we want to do is discuss how if God has given us signs, at this moment, we want to return and give God our own signs. And so what we're going to do today is dive into those three otot, those three signs, as they connect to and pertain to things that Jews that we can do today to respond, to act on the signs. Now we'll see that these mitzvot really, yes, there are three mitzvot that are signs. They are very particular, but within those three mitzvot, there are themes, and we're going to extract as much as we can and learn about how we can grab onto signs and make them real for us in order to increase our identity, connection, and feeling of protection and closeness. So the first sign that we're going to discuss is in connection with Hashem's covenant with Avraham and Sarah. In fact, this sign is Brit Milah, circumcision. Circumcision is the first ot that's a mitzvah that's a sign. So we go into the text here, and Hashem is telling Avraham what he wants him to do. Unemaltem es besar arlaschem, v'hayal os bris beini uvenechem. So I want you to do a Brit Milah. I want you to circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and this is going to be an ot, a sign of the Brit, because God made a Brit with Avraham Avinu, and we'll get into some of the details of what that Brit consisted of. But the fact that we have a Brit, the sign of the Brit, an ot of the Brit, is what we do with circumcision. And we're not even going to get into the details of circumcision per se, but that is one of the skin deep, one of the deepest ways that we show a sign. We literally kind of stamp it on our bodies that we are with God and that God is with us. Beini uvenechem, between me and you being your people. Uven shmonas yamim yimolechem kol zachar ladorosechem. On the 8th day, you're going to do a Brit Milah. And for the Jewish people, Yitzchak got a Brit Milah, a circumcision, on the 8th day. And that is the first ot, the first sign that is also a mitzvah. V'haisa brisi bivsarchem livris olam. This covenant is going to be reflected on your flesh. It's going to be a part of you in your kishka. It's going to be so real as a brit olam, as an eternal covenant. And that's why today, very, very rarely do you see, if ever, Jews not getting Brit Milah. There's something so deep about it, so subconscious, so rooted on the core level of our being that we do Brit Milah. There's nothing we can do to stop that. That's sign number one. And just looking at Brit Milah as a mitzvah, okay, if for some reason you didn't have a Brit Milah, it's never too late. Avram was 99 years old when he got his Brit Milah. And this whole idea is that there's a part of the Brit, there's a part of the ot, a sign that goes really kishkas deep. It's fully on the body. So that's really the first ot. And today we're going to talk about a subset of that ot, that Brit, the Brit that God made with Avraham and Sarah, and by extension with all of us, which predated the Sinai Brit. This is the Brit that we made at Har Sinai, had three foundational gifts associated with it. And those three gifts are going to teach us a lot about our connection to this part of the ot. So yes, it's Brit Milah, but the Milah is really just a physical identification of three parts of the covenant that we made with God. These three foundational gifts are children, land, and Torah. And it really informs our practical spiritual identity as Jewish people. So today we're just going to talk about pathway number 1, which is the importance of connecting with this oath of the Brit, of the covenant of Brit Milah, in its subset to the Jewish community, being connected to Am Yisrael, the Jewish community. We're a Jewish family. The Torah path as a people did not even start with a big people. It started with Avraham and Sarah. It was the first journey that was one family's journey. And I think that has a lot to say about our identity as Jewish people, because the family really is the core unit of Jewish identity. We have looked at, for example, when I got married, Rabbi Hach, who is the rabbi of the village shul, he's now emeritus rabbi of the village shul in Toronto, he told me that as much as I want to change the world, as much as I want to make a difference in the broader scope of my life, whether it's things I do as a rabbi, it's things I do in my clinical practice as a psychotherapist, whatever it is that I'm doing to impact the global world and even the global or broader Jewish community, or even the community locally, that really the core message of the fact that the covenant was started with Avraham and Sarah is that one generation, it's what you decide to make with your partner, is going to have the biggest ripple effect. You're going to have the most impact on that one unit. That one unit is really everything. And, I've seen pictures of families of 5 generations or 4 generations where the great grandparents should all be blessed to see that intergenerational link, God willing, is that you can see hundreds of people, or even in the thousands, just in one seed of 2 people. If you do the exponential math, if you have 5 and then each of those have 5, I think after a few generations, 5 generations, you're in the thousands or something. Someone can fact check me. It's really outstanding how deeply important it is to realize that just by creating a Jewish family, there is so much Jewish impact that you're having. There's so much impact on the world that you're having. And that's really one of the core messages of the covenant. It started with just 2 people. 2 people. And within this sense of the brit that God made with Avraham, there's the promise of a family. Betne vrisi beini uveinecha va'arbe osacha bim'od me'od. I'm going to create a covenant with you. We learned that the covenant has a physical representation in the oath of Brit Milah, and that there's components here. The first one is that there's going to be a family. I'm going to make a family, and I'm going to create that family is going to be arbe me'od. Me'od, it's going to grow and it's going to get bigger. And it's going to start with small families moving and getting larger. I'm going to make you so fruitful. This is really how Jewish identity and Jewish people would start. It started with a family, not this broad sense of a nation. It started with a family, extended out to 12 tribes, eventually to the bigger family of Israel. It's going to be an eternal livris olam. It's going to be an eternal covenant. Just like the Brit Milah is an eternal covenant, the Jewish people are an eternal covenant. I'm going to be your God to your descendants and to your descendants after you. There's going to be this eternal connection from one family out to create an entire people. And this people is what we really want to be connected to in this moment in time. We're an eternal family. And sort of the ingredient that makes us who we are is that as Rabbi Sachs always says, we're a child-focused faith. For some reason, we're ancient. We say Chadesh Amenu Kekedem. We're an ancient tribe. We're Kekedem, which is ancient and old. But Chadesh is we always are new. Why are we always new? Why are we always so innovative? Why are we always at the forefront of society and living eternally as the Jewish people? Because we know the secret of continuity is in creating amazing families, tight-knit families. The Beit, the Jewish home, is really considered like the Beit Mikdash, like this big temple that we had in Israel. That's really the core unit. And the name of the first Jewish child is really the ingredient of Jewish continuity. Who's the first Jewish child, let's say, or first Hebrew child, to be more accurate? Because Avram was an Ivri. He wasn't a Jew. Of course, he wasn't Yehuda, and he wasn't Yisrael yet. So the first Jewish child is named Isaac. What does Isaac really mean? So God is actually the one who tells Sarah what she should name Isaac. It comes from this little backstory that Sarah was almost laughing. She couldn't believe that she was going to have a child. Sarah had disbelief. When there's something so beyond and so amazing, but so hard to grasp, was she's going to have a child at such an old age. Her response was to laugh. And so God says to her, and this is like from a deep level of appreciation. God says to her, you're going to have you're going to have a son. V'karata et shemo Yitzchak. You're going to name your son Yitzchak. And you know what Yitzchak means? Yod means I will. Tzachak is laugh. Yitzchak means I will laugh. the first time we go from the two people, Avraham and Sarah, to the Jewish people, we know a Jewish people is going to start with the next generation. There has to be a next link in the chain. Avraham has to have a child. And when he has that child, he says the name of that child is called I Will Laugh. And from that name, I Will Laugh, we see again, V'hakimoti et briti, otoli brit olam lazaro acharav. You're going to have a Jewish family. It's going to go on forever. And your child's name is going to be Yitzchak. Yitzchak is really the name of the first Jewish child. And from that, I will laugh. That sense of knowing that children bring new life into the world and families. That's really what this is all about. That's really what's going to create the continuity. And so now that we've covered the family unit, which is the first and the most important unit of the Jewish people, that doesn't mean, of course, that if someone doesn't have a family, they're not part of the Jewish people 100%. Everyone is a connection to the Jewish people. And if you want to have a family, God willing, you should. But it's just the importance of the idea that Jewish people really starts in the family unit with that secret ingredient of laughter and continuity of generations. But that expansion of the covenant with Avraham expands to the Jewish people at Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai is the moment in time where the Jewish people received the Torah, and have it a revelation of Hashem with the Ten Commandments. It was a collective revelation. It wasn't to one person like Avraham. It was to an entire nation at one moment in history. It never happened in the past. This is a once in history revelation. I think it says, I was learning Rav Shlomo Katz's shir yesterday, that Barachem Av Shenit, that Hashem's going to come a second time, Le'inei Kol Chai, to reveal himself to the whole world. But this was the first revelation of direct God consciousness to a whole people. And we look here at Dvarim, when Moshe is recounting the moment and the experience of revelation at Har Sinai. He says, Hashem Elokeinu karati manu brit b'chorev. Hashem made a covenant with us at Chorev. That brit is connected to the brit of Avraham Avinu that we just learned about, which is connected to the ot brit of circumcision and Brit Milah. It's all one chain of connection. And Moshe is saying that Lo et avotenu karati Shem as a brit hazot. It's not just with our ancestors that this brit was made. It's not just with Avraham in the past, and more particularly with the first generation of Jews that received. This is the second generation. Moshe is talking to the children of people that received the Torah at Har Sinai and saying it's not just to your ancestors that this was given. Ki itanu anachnu ele fo hayom kulanu chayim. This is with us, every living one of us who is here today. So it's extending this covenant outward into Jewish history, and we really feel that and we really believe that. Panim bepanim diber Hashem imachem bahar mitoch ha'esh. Hashem spoke to us face to face. That was imprinted in all souls, in our DNA as Jewish people. Just like we have physical DNA, spiritual DNA, that's imprinted in us. And that's why in the Midrash it says, from this Moshe's words here, Melamed shekol hadorot shehayu atidin liot amdu al har Sinai b'sha'a she'amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu anochi. Not only is it the generation that stood with Moshe in the second generation that received the Torah, because Moshe recounted the Ten Commandments to them, not only is it with the first generation that received the Torah at Mount Sinai, not only is it with Avraham, it's Kol HaDorot in the future. Every single one of us is included in that. We were there at Har Sinai hearing the words imprinted in us, Anochi, this deep level of faith and the bonding of the Jewish people. It's not just that we received this Torah from Mount Sinai. We received the Torah as one people. We're just one. That's our family in the small sense, and then our family in the large sense as the Jewish people. All of it was connected. And so this bonding at Mount Sinai, this connection at Mount Sinai, we see directly in the text in the book of Exodus before the revelation, that the Jewish people were bonded in that moment. They were united, that they came to the desert of Sinai, and the whole Jewish people, they dwelled together in front of the mountain, getting ready for revelation. And Rashi on this actually says, Ki ish echad belev echad. They were one person with one heart. We have this experience imprinted in us from the revelation at Har Sinai, that we're just one people. Forever we are bonded in that experience as ish echad belev echad. We're completely one and united in that moment of connection, which is imprinted in us forever. In every generation, we feel that intrinsic connection to our people, which at its core is the fact that we come from one family, and that one family had a oneness of experience with Hashem. And if you really think about it, it's actually fascinating that 30 generations of 100 years gets you to 3,000 plus years. So put in a chain like a person that's 0 years old and a person that's 100, like Kanei Nahor, my Zaidi is 91. My youngest child, Gavriel, is about 0. Add 10 years. Hopefully at one point you have 100 and 0 at the same age. If that one generation, if you do 30 of those going back, you're back at this moment. Or if you just do 100 generations, 100 people in a link of 30 years, you're back at Mount Sinai. It's not a very long time, especially when we know deep time from science, like billions of years. Wow, it is not that long ago. And this close ties, I'll just kind of run over it very shortly, this close ties of the Jewish people. We're called Am Segula. We're a treasured and mysterious and special people. Mamlechet Kohanim. We're a kingdom of priests and teachers. We're a nation of wisdom and spirituality. We're Goy Kadosh, a holy and elevated people, a people that's meant to be uplifting the world and everything in it. Goy Gadol, we're supposed to be great. Via Bracha, a nation of blessing. Vivchar bechem ki atem hamat mikol amim. You're chosen and you're small. Even though, you're not a big empire. That's not what makes you great. You're small, but you're great, and you're chosen for that. Elokim krovim alav, God's close to you. Ki me'avas Hashem chashak Hashem. Hashem's love and strong desire for us is really what animates who we are. So there's something special about us. There's something that we feel intrinsically as Jewish people in connection to each other and into our nation and to our connection to Hashem, whether it's subconscious or more conscious. We're some treasured people. We're mysterious. We're teachers. We can be elevated. We're supposed to lead the world. We're supposed to be great people of blessing, chosen and small, close to Hashem and feeling the love of Hashem. That's really who we are. So this is just a little bit about that deep bond connection that we're supposed to have and feel. And so just practically, what can we do at this moment? This has nothing to do with not being connected to non-Jews in any way, shape, or form. This is just how we can, as Jewish people, be connected to who we are. We can create vibrant and strong Jewish families. That first oath is really connected to Brit Milah, which is just the idea of Jewish families, creating Jewish family units, and just being close to the Jewish people, having connections and community experiences, whether we create our own family or not, we're a part of this bigger family, and it's all one. And we should continue to learn the depths of who we are. Like all these things I just talked to you about, there's so much more. It's so important to learn about who you are as part of your identity. I think part of the reason that people are not living as meaningful lives today, and I talk about this a lot in my practice with people, is they're not that connected to stories anymore that bind generations. It's very meaningful to be a part of a story. Children love stories, and to that story be meaningful and that they're a part of it and that they can contribute to it. That is one way that we can also increase our healthy connection to mental health, just that we're a part of a story and that story matters. And so, God willing, we can connect more and more to who we are as a people. Thank you for listening, and we're going to continue next time with the second part of the Oat.